Hi, this is
Okay.
Gregory Conrad um, from for the Canyon Heights Ward podcast. Today we're visiting with Sister Misty Atwood. Are you okay being called Misty for the purposes of this interview? I guess I should ask
Absolutely.
that before we start. But um, so um, tell me, what is one of your earliest memories?
Oh, uh, I grew up in California
Where?
and Southern California, a couple of different areas.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in Chino and Bellflower and uh, the areas in between.
Cool.
So um,
It doesn't have to
I
be the
remember.
earliest.
Okay,
Just a
I
childhood
remember
memory. Sorry.
we played a lot of softball. I had the opportunity to take some dance classes, and we raised dogs. So let's see.
How many dogs at a time?
There were between 4 and 5 sometimes at a time,
Okay.
and then of course there were puppies as well.
And
So
did you get them from a shelter, or how did you get the?
no, so my mom, she chose to breed Great Danes for a while,
Okay.
and so we had Great Dane puppies, and then later on we switched over to Dachshunds,
Okay.
and we had some Dachshund puppies as well.
So, do you guys watch the I don't remember the name, but after the Macy's Thanksgiving parade each year, they have a dog show competition. Do you know what
Oh,
I'm talking about?
yeah, I the AKC uh, pedigree show.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
so did you watch that a lot?
no, but we did watch the Macy's parade.
Cool. It as a kid I'd watch the Thanksgiving parade, and as an adult I stopped doing that. But now I just really watch the dog thing. I'm
Did you
not
really?
I'm not into breeding at all, but I like the dogs, and really it's in the
They're
background.
beautiful.
Yeah. So I um I've had a few in my life, but let's get back to you. um, so tell me more.
About
Um, growing up.
my mom and my dad coached some of our softball teams.
Okay.
They coached some of our soccer teams, which was nice. I had a sister, and my sister wasn't into dance, but I went to a couple of competitions up in San Jose.
Okay. What kind of dance?
I took tap dance.
Oh, I always wanted to do that as a kid. Uh, I
Yeah.
I was
Most
told it
recently,
was expensive, so we didn't do it.
you know, any hobby is expensive, really. You have to buy
Yeah.
all the supplies, and the classes aren't cheap either.
Right. I
So,
just
but it was fun.
every year we watch White Christmas
Oh,
at
I love that
Christmas
movie.
time, and they tap dance, and just made me
They
really
do
want to do
indeed.
it. Um, So how many years did you tap dance?
7 to 8 years.
7 to 8 years. And how many years
Yeah,
did you do the sports?
probably about the same, 7 to 8 years.
Were they overlapping?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Um,
Sometimes I was at baseball or softball practice, and other times I was at dance.
just depending on the day of the week and the time.
That's right.
Busy schedule. Um, so you said you had a sister. Do
Yeah.
you have any other siblings?
No, just my one sister.
Nice.
She passed about 8, maybe 10 years ago.
Tell
Yeah.
me about her.
So it's just me. She was my younger sister. Uh, we didn't get along very well. I'd like to think that if she was still alive today, that we would be on better grounds.
Yeah, same kind of thing with me, except two brothers, and thankfully they're both still alive. But it wasn't until
Yeah.
uh, we were a little bit older that things started clicking. So,
Yeah, we didn't have much of a chance. I got married and moved away, and she was doing her thing. So we just didn't really have the chance to get together very much.
how many years were you apart?
Believe it or not, only 2. But all through high school, we ran in different circles. So,
Okay.
and just a whole lot of bickering.
What was her name?
Hopefully, her name was Amber.
Amber. Nice. Um, Tell me about your parents. What did your dad
My
do?
mom and dad, my dad was a welder for Disney, and I have a great love for Disney.
Yeah.
And my mom was a bookkeeper and did a lot of stuff at home with us.
Okay. So you said he was a welder at Disney. Does that mean for the parks?
Yeah,
Um,
for Disneyland.
okay. So did
So we
you
got to go ahead.
did you get to go for a discount or free or something?
Yeah. Working for Disney, it's a great company. They had a lot of benefits,
Yeah.
and it was just when he passed away, they actually really took care of my mom as well. So just a wonderful company to work for.
Awesome. Um, was there any particular ride that you remember him saying, I worked on that one, or just all over the park?
He he worked all over the park. He worked a lot on Splash Mountain was always down. He worked a lot on the Matterhorn. Uh, we got he worked on the Indiana Jones ride, and so we got a lot of insider stuff on that.
Yeah.
And then he worked on the Star Tours ride, and we got a lot of insider stuff on that as well.
Cool. So I went to Disneyland once in my life as a kid, and it was just after they built the Indiana Jones ride.
I
And
love that ride.
yeah, it was fun. Like Indiana Jones, I am terrified of snakes.
Yeah.
Except I could. He went down into the hole. I never could have gone down into the hole. Um, but so I just knew there'd be snakes at some point, and
Why is
so
there always snakes?
my eyes were closed tightly.
Oh,
um,
goodness.
and I was so afraid. And but like with eyes closed, I think I took that ride in, memorized like had as much of that ride as I did, and so it, I went in later that day and was able to open them and kind of felt
Well, good
more
for you.
secure because like all of these notes I was taking mentally and things and afterwards I was able to be like, okay, when the snake came, when did it come and what did it look like and yeah, stuff.
You could close your eyes then.
Yeah. So so it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I remember being pretty worn out at the end of that day. No,
It's a great ride. It's a great park.
yeah, we stayed for the fireworks, and I think my mom, her legs just weren't moving anymore that day, so they had
Yeah.
um, the cart things. I don't know what else to call them, so we could push her along for the last bit. At least that's my memory. Mom's gonna watch this and be like, "That wasn't me. That was," but that's how I remember it. So, so, what happened? Tell me about after high school. What life?
After high school, I went to college up in Oregon,
Okay,
and I started education with the idea of becoming a doctor.
okay.
It didn't work out. Not a doctor.
No.
No, not a doctor. I came home for a family emergency and never ended up really going back to school. But I met my husband, and we dated a little bit, and we were married in San Diego. And I just went down a different path,
Yeah.
and I could never be a doctor. Never, never. I don't do blood well.
Ah. Yeah, that makes a difference in that profession.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me about how you met your husband. I got his
Through the
side.
singles
Now I
ward.
get singles ward.
Yeah,
Okay.
the singles ward in California. And we would meet at a friend's house, and we would play games, and we became good friends before we ever dated. And then we started dating, and it was just right. And we were married a little bit later.
Now I remember him. I asked him about how did you propose, and it was like an international Mission Impossible scavenger hunt like thing like I'd never heard in my life.
It was pretty impressive.
Um, so, um, tell me that story again from your perspective.
So he was supposed to be in Houston, Texas, over the 4th of July weekend. And I woke up and got into the shower, and I saw a note on my shower wall. And inside that note was a clue that would lead me to another note, and then another note, and another note. And on the outside of each clue was a letter or a number.
Okay.
And so throughout the course of my day, while he was supposed to be traveling to Houston, I was collecting these clues, and they were in my shower. They would be where I ate lunch during the day. They were, oh gosh, they were in my desk at work. They were
So
all over the place.
I weren't they all over the city? Didn't in my
Yeah, pretty much throughout the city of Riverside.
okay.
And then the last one was given to me at the airport in Ontario.
Okay.
And having successfully found all the clues, what I did was collect my confirmation code for a flight.
Okay.
And I gave uh, uh, a good friend met me at the airport, and she had a bag packed for me. So I went and I got on the airplane. And then when I was on the airplane and before we took off, this was before 9/11, another good friend delivered a large box and a small box. And it was at this time that I realized it was a little bit more than a game.
Okay.
And inside the large box was a bouquet of flowers. And inside the small box was like a Walkman with an audio cassette inside and
Okay.
a thing of earphone. And the friend was escorted off, and I was on the plane, and I didn't know what to do because you weren't supposed to play electrical devices while the plane was taking off. And
Okay.
the stewardess told me, just play it. We all want to know what's going on. And one of our first dates, it was probably our first date, we went to go see the movie Mission Impossible. And so what he did was he had his friend record a message in kind of a Mission Impossible theme.
Mhm.
And I was to meet his brother at the end of the jetway in San Jose or San Francisco. I can't remember which airport I flew to. And I was supposed to give him some riddle that was an inside joke between him and his brother. And it's something about a rowboat rowing down the street, and the answer being none, because ice cream has no bones. Well, the whole time I'm collecting these riddles and confirmation code and flying up to San Francisco area, Royal isn't driving to Houston. He's driving to San Francisco. All the while making sure that I'm getting the clues that I'm supposed to be getting. We finally met up. His brother drove me to the Exploratorium in San Francisco.
Okay.
Are you familiar with San Francisco?
Um, I should be more familiar. It's where my dad served his mission. Well, in San
Oh,
Jose.
lovely.
Um, we went there 2 or 3 times, but it's been decades at this point.
So it's a beautiful city to start with. And they have at the Exploratorium, they have this gorgeous domed building. And it overlooks a lake, and there's swans in the lake. It's just really beautiful and very picturesque. If I had the chance to choose a third career, it would be as an architect or somebody who gets to work with this. And it's just always just a beautiful building.
So,
And so,
Exploratorium, is that like Explora here?
kind of, yeah, it's a children's museum. finally get to explore science concepts.
Okay.
Yeah. I think actually the museum, it's now moved. But of course the domed building is still there.
Okay.
So his brother drives me to the Exploratorium and puts me on the walkway to this domed walkway to the domed building. And Royal has finally arrived, and he's got a picnic blanket out, and he's got Martinelli's, and he's down on one knee. I've never flown very well, and I get headaches pretty darn easily. So by the time I finally got there, it was after midnight. It was officially on the 4th of July. He proposed to me, and the words that came out of my mouth were "okay, sure." And so it wasn't the most eloquent acceptance.
No, I remember this, except for the word okay. I just heard sure. I'm like, you had her go throughout the entire city. She's flying on a plane. This Mission Impossible, and she says sure. I just that gave me
Okay,
such a
sure.
big kick. But it's a yes, and you're saying
It
you're
was a
giving me
yes.
the context of you had a
Yeah.
headache and lots of other. It's a
And it was
busy
the best
day.
decision I've ever made.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, so, um, you said that it wasn't until you got to the airport that you realized it was something more. So,
It was something big. Yeah.
does that mean that he routinely gave you scavenger hunt things that took you throughout the town?
So Royal himself is pretty awesome, and we really had only been dating for 3, 4 months.
Okay.
So I just thought he was doing something super sweet for the holiday while he was gone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so you get married, and so tell me, you said you're a bookkeeper. Um, when did when did that start? Was that already going on?
So my mom is a bookkeeper. I'm a bookkeeper in the way that I'm a librarian.
Okay. I guess I got
So
you and your mom mixed up.
that's okay. That's okay. Um, uh, it, I, I chose to stay home with the kids while they were young, and it wasn't until my youngest was going to school that I entered the workforce
Okay.
again. And I had the opportunity. Well, I was looking back on my skills, and I helped my mom out a lot in the office. So I knew a lot of clerking and filing, and I applied for a page position at a library. That my future boss asked me to apply for the library assistant position, and I did, and I got it. And I discovered that I really liked working in the library. And so I quickly finished my bachelor's, signed on to a master's degree program, and became a librarian.
Awesome. I haven't thought of it for a long time, but I think growing up, part of me, I wanted to be a librarian. Uh,
It's a great job.
I loved uh, the books, reading. Usually it was Hardy Boys during the summer that I
Yeah.
would get. Um, what books are your favorite, or authors,
Well,
or genres?
um, I have a favorite author, and that would be Kate DiCamillo, and she writes children's books.
Okay,
And I love the experiences that I've had reading her books
okay.
and sharing them with my kids. However, my favorite stories are horror stories. So I read a
Those
lot of
don't
scary
usually
stories.
combine.
Right, right.
So you don't read the horror stories to the children.
No, 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 no.
Are
But
we
I do, yeah,
are we
the kids'
talking about
stories are,
Stephen King? Uh,
oh yeah, got, I like Stephen. There's a bunch of different authors
okay.
that are very good.
Um,
They
so
tell a great story.
what draws you in? What with the
To the stories or working in a librarian?
I both.
So the stories are just escapism,
Okay.
right? It's just really, it just sets up a whole different world, and it's often a way to explore the things that we do as people and the choices we make.
Okay.
And there are good horror stories, and there are really bad horror stories, and you have to be picky and choosy in what you read. So if it's something that you're not getting anything out of, you ditch the book in 30 pages. Yeah, and you've got a whole library to choose from.
Right.
So, but working in a library is what I like is I have the opportunity to help people find the information that they're in need of. So I'm not always selling stories. I'm helping people find information on how to start businesses, how to work with a kid who might be autistic, to investigate and learn more about a particular art style, or even just looking for examples of people who have had to deal with something that they're currently dealing with.
And I'm guessing you're doing that both by yourself experiencing the books in the library and by dealing with the people who come to you looking for that.
Of course. So I I like horror stories, but it's not the only thing I read. I try to diversify my reading. So I'll read your nonfiction, the children's stories, the horror stories. Probably the only one that I just can't really get into is the romance stories. Yeah.
Yeah. I I wonder um, what the romance stories were like in the 40s. I think I I I would appreciate those more. As I'm
It's
sure
different.
you would.
It's interesting to be able to read the books that are a little older and compare them against what
Right.
is being published today.
So what do you find when you do that?
Language differences, differences in expectations in society.
Okay.
Yeah, just a bunch of they see you see the world differently, and there are different stressors that are making certain things more important.
Yeah. Um, So let's switch back to your husband. You get married, and you have your first kid. Which one's first?
Our oldest is Parker.
Parker. Um, and
He's currently a UNM student
okay,
and attends the Young Single Adults Ward.
which one? Okay,
The
that's fine.
the one that meets at UNM.
Okay.
Okay.
Mountain View, I think. Now they've changed names so many times since my time.
I think their meeting starts at 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Tell me about him. Tell me about the rest of your children, and like what was it
Yeah.
like starting off as a mother as well. How was that transition?
So I never really watched kids as a teenager, and I didn't have a lot of experience with young ones. So a first-time mother for me, it was really hard. Parker is pretty wonderful. He's grown up and is attending UNM, and I think he's wanting to be an energy engineer.
Okay.
So he's working towards that. He's currently in the Air Force ROTC program and is doing phenomenally well. We're very proud of him. Then I had Nathan, who's our middle child. He is doing great up at U of U, University of Utah.
Okay.
And he's in a computer programming degree. He is currently engaged and set to be married in July. So we're very excited about that.
July 4th? Maybe carry
No,
a
not
traditional, a sort of tradition.
Let's see, July 19th in the temple. And then they're going to do a ring ceremony on the 20th.
Albuquerque temple, or which temple?
We're going out to Hartford, Connecticut. And her family is from New York.
Okay.
But their temple is currently under retrofit.
Okay. So
they're working on it.
But you said they are in Utah.
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
So they're going to school in Utah.
Okay.
But her family is in New York.
Okay. Okay.
And then our last is Grace. And she is here as well. She's currently going to C&M. And then is set to go on a mission, we're thinking, in August.
Awesome. Did the other two go on missions?
Oh, yeah. Parker went on a mission to Vancouver, Oregon, Washington area. Okay. So not up in Canada. And then Nathan went on his mission to Hawaii.
Nice. Tell me about the mission to Hawaii.
He had a great time. Unfortunately, he was over there when COVID hit. Oh. And it really kind of changed things in the mission field while he was there.
Yeah.
So, but he met some great members, great families, had some wonderful experiences.
Most of it virtual then?
he did a lot of virtual, but I would say he was a good year out before COVID hit.
Okay.
So it maybe affected a quarter of his mission.
All right. Since you brought it up, that it's a area we haven't, I don't think we've explored before. Tell me about COVID and how it impacted you. You've already said it impacted your son on his mission.
Yeah,
Tell me about that. That was a hard time for
it
most
was a
people.
hard time. I'm a bit of an introvert, so it was so professionally it was kind of nice. Spiritually, it was wonderful to be able to have sacrament and lessons inside our house, and to even from time to time we had the opportunity to have Nathan, while he was on his mission, participate in that with us.
Awesome.
So it was really nice.
Yeah. There were perks.
Yeah.
Family got closer. I had a brother who was living here at the time, and yeah, we did the sacrament together with his family, my parents, and it was nice being together.
It
I
also
go ahead.
it's it cemented a lot of my testimony of prophets, and because shortly before we had this mind switch, really, our more of a focus over to home home centered, church supported
Right.
gospel
Absolutely.
learning, and so it was really nice to have that in play before the pandemic hit
Right.
and we were all brought inside. So it was sort of that, it was a nice reaffirmation of, hey, this is a prophet of God.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it was nice.
Um, yeah. Um, so what has nurtured your testimony uh, the the most during your life?
So of course you have to start every day with the prayer and just starting off right. And then you just have to go out into the day with the faith that your worries are going to work out, that you'll get through your struggles, and that you'll have a safe space to land at home. And so I would say just those those repeated experiences of continually putting yourself out there and just you keep putting it to the test. And so your testimony grows with each success.
Right. Is there any particular struggle that you feel comfortable talking about that really helped um, your relationship with God, with being closer um, there? Just we all
Yeah, so
struggle
of
and
course
people
there's many.
connect. So
Uh, the one that's easy
mhm,
to talk about is we had, uh, we're a military family, and that often meant that Roy would travel first and we would travel on after. And as our family grew, that we became myself, and then Parker and Nathan, and then Parker, Nathan, and Grace. And it wasn't always easy. One that I was most afraid of was our travel from El Paso, Texas to Okinawa, Japan. And you do all the prep work you can, and we tried to do as much as we could before he left. And then after he left, I was responsible for clearing the housing and then getting on a plane and heading over with a not quite 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and maybe a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And it was pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I was grateful to have only one in diapers, and the other two my kids are all very good. Grace sees things a little differently, and I was terrified of losing her and making the whole flight and making people uncomfortable on the flight.
When you say losing
just
her,
ridiculous.
You mean like her vanishing?
Losing her.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Just double checking.
She is she's friendly and talks to anybody and anyone. And it was hard to really manage that at
Right.
just over 2.
Okay.
So I bought a backpack for her that had a leash.
Awesome.
The only time I've ever done that. She had a little cow that was named Bessie. I was almost as terrified of losing Bessie as I was of losing Grace, because this was Grace's whoopee, it was her thing.
You mean
And,
stuffed animal, or we're not talking
yeah, it was
livestock?
a stuffed animal.
Come on.
No. And so every step of the way, at every leg, I had somebody there to help me that I wasn't expecting. And it was just really, really nice. And it made that whole struggle that much easier.
Was that the first time that you left the country? I guess besides
No.
Canada.
Yeah. So we went to Germany with Nathan and Parker.
Okay.
So.
Um.
But it worked, and oddly enough, many of those people who were there to help were members of the church.
Right.
And they just stepped right up, and they helped to occupy my kids when I needed to take somebody to the restroom. Everything just went without a hiccup or a glitch.
So did you just run into these people, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just ran into them.
Awesome.
On the airplane, the person who sat next to us she was from Germany and didn't mind sitting next to 3 kids.
That's
and told
big.
stories, and it really was just a really pleasurable trip.
Good. So what was life like when you got there?
Japan was wonderful.
Yeah. What?
It was absolutely wonderful. A good place to raise kids. and my kids got to see a whole nother walk of life.
Right. What was two of the things that you liked the best about Japan? If you can whittle it down.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking about this. There's something called the Mutsu apple,
Okay.
and that's not the top two, but it's in the top 10,
Okay.
and they're absolutely wonderful. I think probably first was the people. I never ever felt unsafe on the island of Okinawa. Just wonderful. Number two, it's hard to whittle it down. My family had a great experience. They had, I think it was called mizuku, but it's a kind of seaweed that blooms.
Okay.
And families from Okinawa will go out to the ocean and harvest it and freeze it and eat it throughout the year. And we had a Japanese family invite us out to their little holiday to go pick it up. And we were out harvesting the seaweed. The kids loved it. They had a barbecue going, and they barbecued sea urchins and ate the sea urchins. They had a Dalmatian dog that they had taught how to play dead, and it was a great day. Awesome. A really good day.
That brings up dogs again. Once you got married, what do you have dogs? Have you had dogs? What's your animal experience?
Starting out, we had a cat and a bird. And we had my oldest Parker, and he was very colicky.
Okay.
But it turns out he's also very allergic to cats, and we didn't know that. So we ended up getting rid of our cat and getting rid of the bird, thank goodness. But I do believe animals are important to families. It helps them learn to care for something else.
Yeah.
The kids. So we had a black lab mix that was Polly, and we had to get rid of her when we went to Japan. In Japan, we picked up a Australian cattle dog.
Okay.
And that dog was wonderful. And we brought her home with us from Japan to New York. In New York, we added to our collection with a Australian healer. And they traveled with us for a while. We lost the one that we got in Japan. We lost in Kansas. She died in Kansas. And then we lost our second one here when we arrived here. So currently we are without dogs, but we have 5 rabbits.
That's right. That was the surprise ending for the last podcast. Your husband brought up the bunny. He was
petting. Did he bring one up?
Yeah, he was petting the whole time. I had no idea.
Yeah.
in a way, it made me think of James Bond and that guy with the cat. Just like always the cat in the lap, the uh,
Yes.
white furry animal, if I remember right. It's awesome.
We have some good rabbits.
Yeah. Um, we we've only had dogs growing up. We had a black lab mix as well with an Airedale, so he was a nice mellow dog for us. Um,
Our lab was not. She chewed the corner off of a house.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, so I'm pretty certain that our dog also chewed things. I know for certain that it, he interacted with a prize, a beloved rose bush in the backyard. I don't
Oh,
know if like he sat on it or chewed it or something, but my dad was not pleased. So, he still got into trouble. All of them have.
that's what dogs do.
Yeah. The second one in my life was my brother David's, and that was a poodle. And that dog was like a ninja when it came to food. Um,
Oh,
There'd be a whole stick of butter on the counter that was left for 2 seconds, and in those 2 seconds, the dog got the butter and then ran away, and like there's no sign of the dog.
oh my
Just
goodness.
incredible. And like, um, but that dog actually saved my life. Um,
Oh,
I
wow.
I had a interesting experience in the mountains at the beginning of COVID, walking the dog. I got lost and search and rescue had to be called, and
Oh,
that
my.
is a very long story. But basically, the end of it was so I was um, I'm not very confident when it comes to receiving revelation, um, and knowing that I'm receiving it. And so that night out with the dog, I prayed fervently that God would lead the dog. I had complete faith that God could lead
Oh,
the dog. And so eventually we ventured out from our place of shelter because it had gotten really windy, and I was only wearing a t-shirt, a short sleeve shirt.
oh my goodness.
Because it was warm when I started out. I didn't think I'd be gone that long, but in the end it was 10 hours. but
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and it just up here, past U Mound, like um, so. Uh, After the prayer, after waiting out the wind in the hollow of a rock, um, we took off and um, we're going, and there's this big peak on my side, and uh, there's a little steep path up it, and I'm trying to go forward, and the dog keeps trying to go to the side up this path, and I'm just like, no, Ginger, that's not the way. Well, I don't remember going up and down a major peak like that, but then I'm like, I keep praying that God will lead the dog. I should follow the dog. So we got up there, and that dog basically pulled me up. I was so wasted.
Oh.
And we got to the top, and I was mad because there wasn't a trail going down the other side. I'm just like, you dumb dog. um, and but then like a minute later, we start hearing voices, and it's the search and rescue team, and they're a mile or two away. But it ended up being the highest peak um, in that area of the Sandias near U Mound. And so God led the dog. The dog heard the voices and went to the spot where uh, we could be found. Uh,
That's awesome.
and my phone had died many hours before, but I realized that I could start it and then it would always die, but that gave me 8 seconds of light, and now
Uh-huh.
it was midnight, and so I this we're talking to the well, I'm yelling at the search and rescue, and they're yelling back. But it's pretty windy, so it's still not really sure where where I am for them. But I remember the 8 seconds, and so I start my phone up and I shout, "Light! Look at the light!" And they saw it, and they're like, "Great, we see you. We know where you are. Stay there." And my immediate thought then was, "Okay, Ginger, we have to go down the peak now and go to them." Because for some reason in that state, I'm just like, there's no way that search and rescue can climb this peak. But Ginger would not comply. And so
Good.
they came up, and it's a much longer story. But yeah, she saved my life. So
Way to go, Ginger.
yeah, and now there's Raffy, which is another poodle. But switching back to you, so we're near the end of our conversation. Is there anything that you can think of that you would like to say? Um, any experience or anything before I ask the closing question?
Just to keep trying. Every day is a new day to be different and be better.
Awesome. Okay. If you could send one message 100 years into the future for your posterity to hear, what would it be? And it may be what you just said.
Yeah,
um,
actually, the one that's been on my mind a lot is was it Redland who gave the talk this last conference about just saying nice things. Remember to say thank you, I'm sorry, and that I love you.
Great advice. Timeless advice.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, Misty, it has been great visiting with you today. Um, and so that brings the Canyon Heights Ward podcast, I think episode 12, to an end
Wow.
today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.